really doesn't matter whether you think you have a good memory or not, because that you can train your brain to remember better, to learn faster, and to achieve mastery in anything you want in your life. Well, I would request any five people, can I volunteer to please come here? Okay, I promise you, you don't have to remember anything. Write a 6-digit number on this flip chart, write it a little big, so everyone in the audience can see. So one line. so I am going to go behind the flip chart, because I'm not going to look at these numbers for the next few minutes. All right, so if everything went well, you should be having a 30-digit number on the flip chart. Is that correct? Okay, big round of applause for everyone. Thank you very much. And please have a seat, Except you. Can I know your name, please? Angela. So Angela is here. Big round of applause for Angela because he's going to help me with a little more thing. Can you please call these numbers to me out loud, one by one? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
7.
Right.
7.
Right.
7.
Right.
1.
Right.
2.
Right. Right. So thank you very much. Big round of applause for Angela here. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So, of course, you're expecting me to do something, which is true. So what's going to happen is I'll try to recall these numbers from my memory, and let's see how it goes. The numbers are, it's 7, 7, 7, 1, 2, 0, 4, 8, 6, 7, 3, 2, 0, 3, 0, 7, 7, 3, 1, 9, 8, 2, 2, 5. Okay, wait. It's 8, 2. After that should be, it's 9, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4. Okay, thank you. Now, one of my records is I memorized a number consisting of 1,944 digits. It looks something like that. And also, I became a grandmaster of memory many years ago, and also broke a Guinness record. It is true that I broke a Guinness record in memory. It is also true that many years ago, I used to hold a world record in forgetting. It's not official. If you ask my mom and dad, they'll tell you I had a lousy memory. In fact, I still remember one of those days when I'm 15 years old, my mom asked me to buy something from the shop. I got onto my bicycle, went to the shop, parked my bicycle, went into the shop, and as I was going into the shop, I totally forgot I went there on a bicycle. Walked out of the shop and started walking back home. And the most embarrassing thing was I realized I left my bicycle only the next day. Now, for those of you wondering what happened to the bicycle, well, you guessed it, I lost it. So I had a lousy memory. I went from a person with a lousy memory to breaking a Guinness record. And the good news is anyone can train their memory, anyone can become a fast learner, because today I'm going to show you my formula of how you can learn anything and master anything in a fun, easy manner. I say that your learning ability decides your earning capacity. And that's also the reason why if you learn faster, you will stand out from everyone else. So the question is, how do you learn? Now, most people, they just focus way too much on input. What I mean by input is they go to seminars, they read books, they watch videos, they listen to podcasts, they follow blogs. It's input, 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 and more input. Well, there's nothing wrong with learning. The problem is if you have too much of input with no output, what happens is you have shallow learning. That's not good. What we want is not shallow learning. For example, how many of you had this experience where, some of your friends come to you and say, hey, read this book. And then you go, yeah, what did you learn from this book? And then they go, it's a good book. It's a good book. It's a very good book, And then you go, okay, I understand what he's saying, but what's the takeaway from this book for you? And I say, I tell you, you must read this book. Well, what's the point of learning something if you can't implement it and benefit from this? That is pure intellectual entertainment, nothing else. We don't want shallow learning. We want deep learning. And how do you do that? We do it, it's very simple. For true mastery, you need to focus more on the output rather than the input. This is so true with learning. When you learn something, if you don't use it, if you don't output it, you lose it. So that's the reason why we should become more of an output person than input. And here's my formula of how you can be a master at anything. The first thing is, of course, learn, which is what you already are doing. Now, the interesting thing is, when you are learning, you must ensure that the quality of input is really, really high. You must be paying 100% attention. But the problem is, when people are learning these days, what do? They do multitasking. Because of what? Because of the devices that you're actually holding right now. When you're reading a book, when you're watching a video, you have your phone nearby. And while you're reading, while you're learning, while you're understanding, and the phone message goes off, there's a notification goes off, what do? Of course, you attend to it. When you attend to it, what happened? What you just did, you killed your momentum. You messed up with the quality of input. Now, here's the thing. Your quality of input determines the quality of retention. How well and how long can you remember information? It also affects the quality of recall. That's the reason why my suggestion is, if you are learning something, at least for the time you're learning, you should be doing not multitasking, but the exact opposite of it, which is single tasking. Do one thing at one time, especially when it comes to learning. Stay away from distractions. Pay 100% attention. And then you'll be well on your way to mastery. That's the first thing. The second thing is, of course, is reflect. Now, many people are in the rush to learn new things, which is good. But the problem is, you also need to do reflect. What do I mean by that? After you learn something, pause for a while and ask yourself, hey, what's the takeaway from this thing? And how can I use this information in my life? How can I use this information in my work, in my family? When you pause, when you reflect, when you ask these questions, that's how learning solidifies. Otherwise, it's all just wasted. And after reflect, the next step is implement. And this is where the magic happens. And unfortunately, many people miss out on this thing. What they do is they go on learning new things, they get excited, and they feel good, they feel inspired, and they go on to learn something new. You just messed up. Now, the problem is, if you get into the habit of just learning without implementation, you know what you get? You get illusion of competence. You feel you've learned it. You feel you're competent, but it's not competence at all because you haven't implemented. So my suggestion is, when you are learning something, stop. Write down what are the few things I can take action on. Schedule it in the calendar and take some action. Is share. When you learn something, just output it. Just share it with other people. Now, if you don't know, if you don't want to teach, you could just share it. You could just discuss it. But what happens is, when you share things with other people, what you're doing is you're helping your brain to pay more attention. And then you will be on your path to mastery. So I have not seen anyone who became a master at something just by doing the input. They all became masters by doing the input and more of the output. So I have a question for you. When you are learning something new, how much time do you spend on learning? And how much time do you spend on reflecting, on implementing, and on sharing? And if you're not spending more time in output, that's not a good thing. And when you do that, you are well on your way to be a master at achieving anything you want. Now, because I messed up a couple of digits, I want to challenge myself. I got inspired after Manoj's speech. I'm going to challenge myself and turn out my fear and face my fear. And what I'm going to do is just take 1 more minute. I'll try to recall this number one more time after speaking for 20 minutes. Okay. No, in the backward sequence. Challenging myself. Who knows? 4, 3, 5, 2, 6, 1, 5, 9, 2, 8, 9, 1, 3, 7, 7, 0. Not yet. 3, 0, 2, 3, 7, 6, 8, 4. It's 0, 2, 1, 7, 7, 7.